What's up, Star Trek fans? This is Star Trek Late Night, and I will be able to give my review now for you, which is going to be hard to do. It's very early in the morning. I'm taking a lot in, and I'm going to be honest. Please forgive me if I mess anything up or if I am a little discombobulated because I feel like I need to watch this a few more times. I feel like one viewing is not good enough, and I need to watch it again. I had anxiety during it that it was ending when it wasn't ending yet. You know what I mean? This was the longest episode of all the episodes. So this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled, obviously, you should turn away now. So turn away now, it's your last chance, and don't read the comments. Everybody else, here we are. I want to say that first of all, nothing will ever be TNG, the show. Nothing can ever, unless you tried to mimic it damn near dead on, it's not going to happen. This season always felt like something different, but something familiar. For instance, you have the TNG series, which is wonderful and perfect almost. You'll never find anything better, in my opinion. Star Trek was at the biggest of heights by the time season 7 aired of Star Trek The Next Generation. It was, everybody knew about it. You know, when I was younger and I was watching it up until about season 5, people would still, if you said Star Trek, would still say Captain Kirk stuff. You know, beam me up, Scotty. You know, and you'd be like, well, there's no Scotty in TNG. You know. And people would be like, I don't get it, you know. So, but by season 7, people knew all the Picard things and the Make It So, and people had known the new Star Trek, and so this was really my Star Trek, and I loved it so much. And of course, when the movies were coming out, I was very excited to watch the movies. When I was a kid, obviously the movies were better to me than later on in life. I kind of realized they were a little bit different and not quite as good as I remembered because I was a kid. And, you know, when Generations came out, I was a 10-year-old when Generations came out. I mean, I feel like I was older when Generations come out because when Generations came out, I felt like I mean, TNG had already ended. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like a 20-year-old when Generations came out, but I wasn't. I was 10. But that's because I'd been watching The Next Generation since I was 4 years old. And, I mean, I remember it vividly watching it as a kid in my parents' bedroom. My father was a huge Star Trek fan. My mother thought the show was cute. You know, it wasn't like her biggest thing ever. She didn't, like, love it, overlove it, or anything like that. But it was her... It was nice to her, even to this day, as she watches this series with me. She's on episode 4 of Picard season 3 with me. She won't watch seasons 1 and 2. I told her, you know, she would not like what they did, but this she'll watch. So, you know, Star Trek always has felt like it's been around a lot longer to me than it may seem as I explain this. But the movies were what they were. They were a little bit out of character. They weren't quite the squeaky clean archetypes that you see in The Next Generation, but I like the archetypes that you see in The Next Generation. And let's just give up on this mic. Because the mic, it's falling into my face, and the other thing is, this mic is so much better. Might as well use the better mic, right? So if you're listening, sorry, but now we have the better mic. So, with the movies being wonderful. I mean, I remember first contact in the movie theater. I was 12 years old, and I just was so hyped to see the Borg on the big screen, and the story they told. I loved it. You know, Insurrection was nice as well, but it felt like an episode that was just like turned into a movie that had already been done before. Nemesis, I actually loved Nemesis at first. It was kind of a downer, You know, I thought that they were in character the most in that movie Nemesis. Out of all the movies of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they were the most in character in Nemesis. The only thing was Picard was a little bit more timid. Picard was a little bit more somber in Nemesis. And although it had that sort of uplifting, like, hey, maybe there's hope feeling at the end of the movie, it was just very dark. And this season 3 of Picard feels like something different. It feels like a third option. Okay, we've seen Star Trek: The Next Generation on the big screen. We've seen Star Trek: The Next Generation on television back in the day. And now we're going to see Star Trek: The Next Generation in a 10-part story done 20-something years after we've seen all the characters. So it's really its own little category. But I feel like it's kind of a hybrid of everything, which is almost kind of like how Data feels. So I will say that let's just start it off with, they're back on the bridge at the beginning of the Enterprise D. We've seen the preview of this. They find out the Borg sort of transmitter is hiding in Jupiter. Maybe I missed some lines, but we don't really find out a ton, I don't think, in this episode as to really why the Borg, why exactly they were doing this and how, and how are the Borg actually really defeated now, or are they that safe, just because that transceiver's gone? And what Borg queen was that? I might have missed some dialogue and some things that were being said, but I'm still confused at kind of what exactly happened. But that could be because I was so hyped up and just like anxiety and just wondering what was really going to happen that I couldn't really soak in a lot of the dialogue sometimes. This is why I need to watch this several more times. But that didn't even matter to me. I don't really care. What I cared about was that everybody would make it, or someone wouldn't die, or whatever would happen. Spoilers, I said at the beginning of this, but I'm just paranoid I'm going to give things away, even though I'm supposed to give things away. We're spoiling it right now. The fact that one of the things, though, that tipped me off, I thought, that nobody would die was, I thought Terry Matalas and the people working on this know that Star Trek fans don't like it when people die. They really don't. It's every time somebody dies, the fans are never happy with the death, and they're just never happy with it. They don't want people to die. Star Trek fans, from what I can, gather, just don't like it. When Spock was dead in the movies, people did not like it. They brought him back. When Kirk died in Generations, they didn't like it. And I don't think they would have liked it no matter what he did, quite honestly. I think it's a lie that people were like, oh, they're mad because he died on a bridge in the canyons with Picard. No, I think he could have. Kirk died twice in that movie. He died saving the ship, the Enterprise, and then he died again at the end. I mean, it was epically awesome. To me as a kid, I thought it was great. And I loved Kirk. But I thought, man, Kirk just saved the day twice. I thought it was sad. And I loved James Kirk. But it was like, but so many people were outraged. I can remember, especially the adults were so angry. And they were so like, ugh. But I found it amazing. And it was sad. But people just didn't like that they killed Kirk no matter what. And then when Data was killed, in Nemesis, people were not happy about that. Although I even though I was unhappy about it and I was upset about it, there was a part of me that liked it. It's weird. Like, I liked being sad about it, only because part of me also thought, man, that's what Data would do. That's so Data. You know what I mean? He just became human. He did the most human thing you could. He sacrificed himself for his captain, his friend, and for all his friends. He saved everybody on the ship. Data sacrificing himself was one of the most human things. And so I wasn't happy about it, but I also thought, well, they'll bring Data back, just like they brought Spock back. But that didn't happen because they didn't make any more movies. And now they finally got to do it here in this TV show. And they got to make Data more human-like, which is what Gene Roddenberry always said was the point, was eventually he would evolve and become more human. And he never really got to do that because he ended up sacrificing himself in Nemesis. But now not only does he get to experience that, but this new version of Data gets to now be this evolved version of Data that, Gene Roddenberry always saw Data becoming, and even probably Brent did too, and maybe the audience. It doesn't feel like Data 100% because it's not. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's almost like bittersweet. You're like, there's a part of you that's like, I understand this, and I know why he's acting different, and he's a different Data. I get that. But there's a greedy part of you that just wants Data. That's the one. It's in my head that there's a part of me that I just want Data. I want the robot. I want Data to be like, yes, Captain, I have blah 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 blah. And it's because Data is so childlike. And it wasn't until Gates McFadden brought this up, and Gates said, oh, they brought Pulaski on the show in season 2 to kind of like banter with Data, but it didn't work the way it did with Bones and Spock because they were adults, and Data felt like a child. So Pulaski bullying Data was like her bullying a child, and so people hated her for it. I felt the same way. And much that way that Data feels like a child, watching this Data is almost like watching a grown-up. You know what I mean? It's like if you lost your child, but then he showed up again when he was like 40. There's a part of you that would still miss the child version of your child because you didn't quite see it slowly transition into this adult. You missed that part. And so there's a part of me that's like, no, I want the Data that I know. So when Data is speaking kind of robotically like he used to, I'm like, oh, yes. But when Data's like, I got this, it's like, it's not quite what I'm looking for. But it makes sense for the character. Like, Data's more Data-like in season 1 of Picard. Yes, Captain. No, Captain. I don't believe, you want that robotic response. But you got to understand this is a different evolved Data who has all of Data's real memories, so he is Data, but mixed with all these other things, and he's acting in a different way. So it's a little bit of a mind trip that you don't quite get everything perfectly the way you want it, because that's not how the world is and life is. I still think Picard and Data's opening scene of season 1 is one of the best scenes in the whole series. Unfortunately, the rest of the season is kind of crappy, and the second season is terrible. But that opening scene with Data and Picard is wonderful. I don't want the game to end. It's wonderful. But that's how I felt about this. So the fleet's, all attacking Earth's defenses. Earth's shields are up. Now, Chekhov is the president, At the beginning, we find that out, and that's really cool. I popped for that, dude. When I heard Pavel Chekhov's voice. Now, I was thinking in my head, I was like, well, wait a minute. Is this Pavel Chekhov's son? So I think it's actually Pavel Chekhov's son who that is. But, because McCoy lives to see the Enterprise D, right? Which is about almost 33 years ago. So 33 years ago or so, Dr. McCoy is still alive. And he's, so it's possible that Pavel Chekhov could be alive. He was the youngest member of the crew. So I wasn't quite sure if this was his son or him. Because at one point he said, my father would say, whatever. And I was like, well, wait a minute. So this is his son? And so, Pavel Chekhov was the president. He'd be in... Something just flew in my mouth. I swear to God, a bug just flew in my mouth. He'd be an old guy. So this is another thing I have to go back and watch it. I didn't really quite grasp if that was Pavel Chekhov or his son. So, but either way, to hear Walter's voice and to see that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. So nice on the feels there. They're trying, so 7 of 9 and whoever she can gather up, take the bridge. She's got some people who aren't used to being in those positions. Now, this kind of threw me out a little bit of it kind of pulled me out of the show a little bit. Because if I'm not mistaken, this actor here plays a character on Strange New Worlds in Season 1, Episode 1. And I think he's the guy who's from the planet who's like, tag ball? And it's such a prominent comedy scene for me that he stuck out like a sore thumb. And it kind of messed me up a little bit because that's all I could think about was that's the guy from Strange New Worlds. And I couldn't stop thinking that. So he might be a cool dude, and that's why they were like, yo, let's cast him again. But man, I would not have cast him because it really pulled me out of it for a few minutes. I was like, what? That's the guy from Season 1 of Strange New Worlds. Tag ball? On my planet, we tag ball. If that's not him, that's his friggin' doppelganger. But he looked exactly like that guy. So anyway, it wasn't a big deal, but it kind of I was like, what? So that kind of messed with me a little bit. I like the scenes on the Enterprise D. We're going to go to the Borg cube. They're like, we got to destroy the signal to cut off the collective. This stuff was cool. A lot of my ideas, I realize a lot of my ideas are so goofy and fan fiction-y. The show does a lot of stuff that's more toned down and makes more sense. Whereas in my brain, I have all these weird ideas. Like at the end of this, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if at the end of the episode, they decided to just take the Enterprise D and go do something? There was a reason for them to go on one little mission that was super, just a silly little mission somewhere. The fleet's going to have to go through all these protocols to get the Borg nanos out of us or go through the transporters or whatever. In the meantime, they're going to take the Enterprise D back to the museum or whatever. And maybe somebody says, we need are you guys busy? We need somebody to take, equipment over to a planet and deliver it. And we were going to do it, but with this whole ordeal, we can't do it. It's got to be brought somewhere. And where's the planet? Oh, it's Risa, or something like that. Who's down? Who's up for a trip to Risa? And then they just zoom away. See, I have these stupid ideas in my head, you know what I mean, of goofiness that, you just wouldn't do, but in my head it's funny. And they just do so much more toned down, simple, better stuff. That's why this show's good. They're really laying it on thick that somebody's going to die. which I started this, what I'm about to say, I started at the beginning of this review and I stopped saying it. I lost track of my brain or whatever. But one of the reasons why I figured nobody was going to die was because, again, tying back into what I was just saying about people dying in Star Trek, they don't like it when people die. So Terry Matalas and the writers and everybody, they probably knew that. And you're trying to do a feel-good ending. You're not trying to do Nemesis again where, oh, somebody died, but everyone's smiling at the end and there's optimism. You know, you don't want to do that. You want everyone to be happy at the end and go home into the sunset. And that's how we leave everything. You know, that's what you want. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't think anybody was going to die. The second reason why I didn't think anybody was going to die is because they really, for the first 35 minutes of this episode, they really laid it on thick that somebody was going to die. Now, I did think that it was possible Jack could die. At some point, I said, you know, okay. And then I thought Picard, and then I started thinking Picard was going to die. So the show did an amazing job of making somebody like me, who logically thinks they know nobody wants to see people die, and they're laying it on thick, someone's going to die, so no one's going to die. But I still friggin' believed somebody could die. And then I went back in my head, like, what if it's somebody we don't expect, like Riker? What if it's Picard? What if it's Jack? It's probably going to be Jack. What if it's both of them? And then when Picard, skipping ahead a little bit to Picard's scene with him, man, that scene crushed me, bro. It was so sad. Because Picard, throughout the series, was uncomfortable around children. He didn't really want children and really want a family, a traditional family. He ended up losing his family in a fire. And just so much trauma to this guy. And now he finally finds a son, his girlfriend, essentially, Beverly, who they'd been flirting for so many years, ended up taking off on him, left him, and for 20 years, he just was content to die alone, almost, seemingly. Not 20 years, but, for a while. And then he finds out he has a son, and then now his son's going to die. And so, like, he's like, if you're not going to come out, I'll just stay with you. Now I don't 100% know how that led to Jack being free or freeing himself, other than that his connection to the collective was so strong. He really didn't want to leave the collective. But once he was able to connect with his father, that connection with him and his father was so strong, it was able to break the connection he had to the Borg. So that's what I think happened there. And I think a lot of people are going to struggle with getting that or whatever, like I even just kind of did. But that's the point. It's a little magical. I know. It's not exactly the most Star Trek science thing ever. But again, despite the fact that Star Trek is usually more science and analytical and technobabble, there is a bit of magical in Star Trek. It happens in the original series. It happens in TNG with Q and with Wesley and the Traveler and just so many other things like that, I think most Star Trek fans prefer the techie stuff, the techie and the science and the technobabble over everything first. So I think if you have enough of that first, that once in a while the magical stuff seemingly is acceptable, if it kind of makes sense enough. So I don't have as much of a problem. but we're skipping all around here. But Worf, Picard, and Riker go to the Borg cube because they find out that that's where Jack is, and they need to find a way to locate him. And it's a big-ass cube that's in Jupiter. And they really make it seem like they're saying their last goodbyes to everyone on the bridge. I mean, Picard even, and this is when they kind of like oversold it. I felt like they oversold it, but overselling it is what made me worry even more. If that makes any sense. Like, it worked. I don't know why. I do think maybe they laid it on a little too thick. Like, if Picard and Worf and them, they just walked into the turbo lift and they hadn't been like, serving with you has been an honor, to all of them. You know what I mean? Like, it would have maybe been, it would have been as much anxiety ridden if they just said, hopefully we'll all see you again. And they just got on the turbo lift. And Picard kind of took a long look around and then zoomed in on his face. And then Geordi and their faces afterwards. And that would have been kind of like, that would have been like getting the point across. But they really laid it on thick with like serving with you these years, like, and everything. And taking a look around, and it was like, wow, they're really laying on thick that somebody's going to die. But it worked still because I was worried. I was very concerned. And then by the time we get to Jack, and there's so many things going on that we find out later on, we can blow up the Borg cube, but we'll only have like a minute to get out of here once we blow up the device. The Borg Queen, I knew we wouldn't see Alice Krieg because, as I said in my review the other day, they couldn't afford to have her come there and act. They could only afford her voice. So I don't know. I feel like the Borg Queen face we got was like a mix, or it actually might have even been Annie's face. I think this might have been Annie Warshall's face, which was, I think that's her. So I don't know if I have to look at the credits again, and I don't know. So did she actually shoot this season? Or is that Alice Krieg? I can't tell because they covered her up so much. That could be Alice, but it also kind of looks like Annie's Borg too. Or maybe it's a mix of both of them, but it's also a little bit weird because with Annie passing away, you know what I mean? It's a little unsettling. So I don't know. I can't believe I can't tell. And when somebody tells me what it is, I'll probably, feel stupid right now. But I'm looking at it right now and I can't quite tell. It could be Alice's face. She's much older now, and they used some kind of photo thing of her and deep fake. But and maybe it is Alice, and she's just so covered up. But it also looks like Annie a little bit too. So I can't tell. But all thoughts to her family. She passed away from being sick for a little bit, and she was working through it, and she was great. She was one of the best things about season 2. Which we said that during season 2 when she was alive. It's not a fake it's not fake adulation or a fake compliment. We said this during the season that, well, at least she's good, so this stuff on the Titan was great. Seven gave kind of a Picard speech to the crew too, to get them fired up and going. Picard kind of loses control of his emotions a bit. He's like, God damn it. He starts firing at the Queen. He's going crazy. He's like, is this thing working? He does kind of go a little illogical here because Picard's, son is on the line. And I think Picard was acting a little, he has a bit of this rage, though, for the Borg. We saw it in First Contact, and we've seen it, that he kind of has no patience for the Borg. And, Picard has always had kind of no patience for anybody that wants to control somebody and torture somebody or assimilate somebody. He has no patience for that sort of thing. And so you see some of that here, which, does make sense. Now, here he looks like he's getting lasered through the chest by somebody, but I really liked these scenes. It really does remind you of Star Wars. I hate to say it, but it does kind of remind you of Star Wars Episode 9 or whatever the hell with J.J. Abrams, like basically putting the Emperor in the Emperor is hooked up to the machine. Like, oh no, I'm still alive. You'll never be rid of the power of the it's like legit like the same thing. There's gonna be people that view that negatively. I don't view it. I mean, it really is funny because it's so much like that. Look at your forces, they're failing you. Like, I was like, they're on some darker world in the outskirts. There's a massive battle going on up in the sky, and now you're hooked up to like life support, clone support, whatever. Dude, it's very similar. I have to bring that up because people are gonna bring that up. But I like what they did. This makes more sense, though, than Star Wars Episode 9, I think. And it's a little bit, and it's got more originality. Like, so if that makes any sense, like the overall series, all 10 episodes, including this episode, is more original, but there are things in every episode that I think of other things with. And I know people mentioned Battlestar Galactica recently. There's so many little Battlestar Galactica things. Okay. I'm not that big of a Battlestar Galactica fan. I like Battlestar Galactica, like a little bit, but like I'm not that big a fan. But if you're a massive Battlestar Galactica fan, I could see what you're saying, or whatever. But I don't think it's that. I think it's more of homage, or it's like, well, let's do this. And it's kind of like in Battlestar Galactica, this happens, but it's in our show, it's happening like this. That's sort of how I see it. I don't see it as like, oh, this is clear. I think there's a lot of good of lots of things kind of rolled into this show. But this was kind of like, it was creepy. I would have liked to see potentially the Borg Queen, or maybe, I don't know, like there's a little more to it. Who was the face? It didn't get answered in the show. Now, from what I'm understanding, the face that you see that is talking to Vadic, that's like, bring us the boy, apparently that's the voice of the collective talking to Vadic. And so it's not the Queen. So that, that always was is a little convoluted. And you can say like, oh no, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. Well, that's fine. In my headcanon, I understand. I don't have a problem realizing, oh, well, the Queen, it's probably the Queen that was talking through that, or the collective voice, the male collective voice that you hear, we are Borg, like that. That's what was talking to Vadic. So there you go. But still, it's not really explained very well in this. So if you don't explain it even a little bit, that's something that's going to bother some people. And it's a little bothersome, but I understand. And I don't need it to like this. So that's fine for me. But people will be asking about that.
man, the Borg Queen just looks jacked up. Her like ribs are open, like it's just crazy. Worf and Riker were great here. I love that they're together again because they've just got that funny chemistry. I like when we get to see some drones too. I mean, like it's not like there's a massive like war field of drones. There's just a simple couple drones, and they attack them when they're trying to shut down the system, and it's great. And I love that Worf gets shot. They get jacked up a bit, and in doing that, Worf drops his sword, the Kurleff, and Riker goes to pick it up, and Riker's like, shit, this thing weighs a ton. Like, I didn't know how much this thing actually weighs. And then Worf pulls out a phaser out of the Kurleff. I thought that was hilarious, too. This looks awesome. Like, this might be the thumbnail. Oh, we didn't talk about it at the very beginning, man. The very beginning, like everybody thought, the Enterprise D is the ship at the intro. And it's like Borgified in the intro. I loved that little thing at the beginning. That was really cool. I thought that was stupidly great. Just dropped my phone. So that was really cool. The battles in space were pretty good. It was cool to see the whole fleet. I actually wish we got more fighting with the ships and stuff like that. And maybe there was more fighting. Again, I got to watch this again because I had so much anxiety. I'm telling you, man, I wasn't able to function. Riker and Worf loved their scenes together. Data's like, they're like, we have to fly in and do this, that, and the other thing. We're going to have to blow up the sphere, and it's going to kill all our friends. And Data's like, no, I can fly. I can do it. You know what I mean? It's a near impossibility, but I can do it. And I liked how they showed Data doing it. You know, old Data would have said something like, Geordi, like, mathematically, statistically, like, it will be near impossible, but it's not impossible. There is a chance it could work. But, and I would be the only one that could attempt it. But there's a 92% chance of error. And the error means we would die, that sort of thing. But this Data is like, I can do it. I swear I can do it. Like it's so different Data. Data that has this feelings and gut instinct. And I think he says gut at some point. So Geordi believes him and allows Data to go with his gut. And I was right in the last episode. I said I thought Geordi would end up taking command. Data would fly the ship. And Counselor Troy would stay where she is. And I think I said Beverly would do I think what she's doing. I think I thought Beverly would sit on the other console, but instead she's doing weapons and stuff like that. So that was different, but pretty close, if I recall my predictions. So they're targeting Space Dock and Earth, and the shields fall. Now, did they destroy Space Dock? It felt like they did. It felt like they destroyed the space station or the Space Dock. And there's Mr. Tagball looking guy again. And Picard is trying to get Jack to snap out of it. The Borg Queen is like, no, it's too late for them. And then the Enterprise D flies into the cube against the probability because Data says he can do it. And they're trying to get them out. And now is the point when you're like, oh, man, maybe they are going to get out of it. But then, Riker and Worf are like, nope, we're going to go looking for Picard. And they're like, well, you got a minute to do it after we destroy the fucking sphere thing, the whatever. And then you're like, okay, people are going to make it out, but somebody might not make it out. And that's what I started, thinking. And Picard's like, okay, I can't get him out of here. I'm gonna unplug him, and then I'm gonna plug myself in. So then he plugs himself back into the Borg and talks to Jack in this Matrix-like sort of vision or whatever. And this scene made me cry. I fucking cried. Excuse my language if people don't. Sorry. I cried during this scene because I don't know, man. It could be that my father died when I was 8. I have 3 children now. Or it could just be how well acted it was in the writing, and could be that I'm 38 years old now and I'm getting a little more softy. But boy, this was wow. Bro, it's weird how the last episode I cried over a fictional spaceship. You know? I cried over seeing the Enterprise D in the last episode. And then in this episode, I cried because Picard refused to let his son be alone. And he was like, I'll just stay with you. And I'm like, oh my God, bro, they're gonna die together? Are they really gonna die together? And right as I was like, holy crap, one of them's gonna die. Or they're gonna die together. As quickly as I was sad about that, and I was like, oh my God, bro, that scene was unreal. Suddenly he was back, and he did the Neo in the end of the episode 1 of The Matrix, and then Picard got the thing pulled out of him, and he disconnected from the Borg, and I thought maybe Picard still was going to be stuck there. I thought maybe that would happen, that Picard would be stuck, and Jack couldn't get him out, and they beamed Jack off, and then Jack off. But then Picard's stuck on the ship, and then I was like, it's like weird, dude. I still was thinking someone's gonna die somehow. But luckily he doesn't. And we missed the part where Deanna was like she felt Riker, their connection, and she's like, I know where they are, because she connects with Riker, and so she pilots the ship. I like how no one listened to Geordi, too. Geordi's the captain. Data's like, oh, no, I got this. I'm going to go with my gut. I can do this. No, shut up, Geordi. I can do it. And Geordi's like, no, Data. He's like, but I can do it, so I'm just going to do it. And Geordi's like, but I'm the captain. And Data's like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Screw you. And then Deanna's like, well, I can sense them. I'm taking us back in. I know where they are. Poor Geordi. See, Geordi, you get the chair, but not really, Geordi, because Data's not listening. Deanna's not listening. No one looked at Geordi and said, dude, if it was Picard, dude, if they would never do this if it was Picard. If it was Picard, they would say, like, sir, I'm telling you, I've got a gut feeling I can get this done. I can do it. It's statistically highly improbable, but I can do it. I'm telling you, let me do it. And Picard would say, make it so. And they'd be like, okay. Deanna would be like, Captain, I know where they are. I can sense them. I know where they are. Let me take control of the ship, and I can take us to them. Make it so. None of that with Geordi. Just, I'm going to do it. Like, no respect for Commodore, for Geordi LaForge. You know why. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it is weird. Nobody listened to him. Jack snaps out of it. Oh my God, look at this. You not control me anymore, you biatch. You get back to the Jedi. Sorry, I can't stop thinking about that. But no, that was great. And then the D shows up right over them, all blinding them and everything. I mean, this was really cool sci-fi right here. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a retread of the best of both worlds a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only difference is, in the best of both worlds, in part 2, they just kind of show up, and they go, da-da-da-da-da, they get Captain Picard out of there. Goodbye, we got out of here. On to the, and there we go. And, like, part 2 was a little bit of a letdown compared to part 1. Part 1 was such a great setup, and part 2 is more like, okay, we get out of it. Yeah. Like, this did remind me of that best of both worlds in a way. But what best of both worlds didn't have was the emotional scene that Picard and his son had. And also all the baggage of this whole series at this point. So, well done. Now the Borgified people escaped. They're going to try to take back the bridge, but they blew up the big transceiver thing, the broadcasting satellite, whatever you want to call it, on Jupiter. So now the Borg lose all their connection because it's not being broadcasted out anymore, and all the young people are back to normal again. And everybody's hugging and happy, and yeah, the Titan did it. Everybody comes back onto the D, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're all alive! This is awesome!" And I'm happy, and everyone's happy. Geordi sees his daughters are alive, and then Worf falls asleep, which is friggin' hilarious. Worf falls asleep on the, which is great. Everyone's happy. Good shot. Another great shot of the Enterprise D. Man, it's so beautiful. And there it is next to the very smaller Titan. But they're not very smaller, but they put the Enterprise D in a position that makes it look a lot bigger. Although I think it is bigger, but you know what I mean. The perspective makes it look even that much bigger. And then Tuvok meets with Seven of Nine, which is great because now we know Tuvok is alive and he didn't die. And they explain the changelings didn't kill everyone somehow or whatever. Fine. This scene was also emotional and a payoff and kind of beautiful. I liked this scene with Seven of Nine. Talk about character growth, sort of. Some people are going to say, like, you know, still not 100% on Seven of Nine being a captain, but the Shaw moment with him entering his captain's log and recommendation that she be promoted to captain. Maybe he just did it to get rid of her. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was a genuine. So that was nice. Jerry Ryan's acting here was really amazing. The way she cried and her believability on her face. Like, I mean, this is a very, very, man. Like, this was really well acted. And I'm not some over-the-top Jerry Ryan fan. I've seen a lot of these fans out there that just jerk off to her, everything. Like, I don't really love Seven of Nine that much. I always liked her a little bit in Voyager, and I certainly have not liked her character in seasons 1 and 2. I did not like what they did with her. I was angry by it. And so this season, I kind of rolled my eyes that she was in it, but I like her being in it now. But it took a while for me to get back the feeling I had about Seven of Nine on Voyager that I have for this Seven of Nine because of how bad I think the character was portrayed in seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. So that being said, what I'm trying to say to you is that I don't really care that much. But man, did she make me care in this scene. Jerry Ryan's acting here is awesome. And in this episode, she's the best in this episode of all 10 episodes, or all other 9 episodes. This is her best episode, in my opinion. And her most 7 of 9 like, I guess. So this was a wonderful scene, and I'm glad Tuvok's alive. We didn't get Janeway, which I didn't think we would get her. And also, literally, Terry Matalas said we won't get her. So nobody should have believed we were going to get her. Great scene with Worf and Raffi. And we find out that Raffi's going to get to see her kid, and Worf leaked out all her accomplishments, which might be great, but also seems to be dangerous. Like, if she's done a bunch of busted criminals and terrible things over the years, Worf just basically leaked all that stuff out. I mean, I'm concerned for her family after that, but I don't know. But the point was that her family sees her as a hero now, and that some of the things she did was for this and not because she didn't care about them. So they minorly retconned her a little bit, that some of why her family didn't like her was because of this, but as opposed to her drug history and her problems before. She's a very flawed character and a very not Star Trek character, but she gets a very good ending. And you're happy for her because that's all she wanted to see was her granddaughter in the end. Then we get to see Data with Counselor Troy, which is kind of funny. It's kind of a funny scene. And again, I find myself looking more for Data that I know than this new Data, but I'll get used to it. And it was, again, it's great to see Data's grown because that's what everybody always wanted him to do. And that's what he always wanted to do. It's like 5 a.m, guys. So it was kind of cool scene. And he takes up too much of Counselor Troy's time. Then we get a flashback to a flash forward to 1 year later. There's the museum, and the Enterprise D is now on display at the museum. And there's Riker and Picard and Geordi all observing the Enterprise D one last time. And this was nice. I still would have rather the whole crew be on the bridge one last time here, but I get it. But also, they're all wearing the same clothes. I thought that was strange. You know what I mean? Like, I thought this was a little strange that 1 year later, like, they're all dressed up exactly the same as they were previously. So this, I would have myself said, okay, Patrick, lose the jacket. Riker, lose the jacket. At least put somebody in a different coat so it seems different, because it really didn't seem like a year passed. But I get it. I get the point. I'm not going to nitpick that. In Star Trek The Next Generation, a year later, they would have all been wearing the same uniforms too, so what's the difference? So, but it was, to me, it sort of took me out of it a little bit. Like, I was like, what? Like, they should have been wearing something different. If I was making the show, I would have been like, well, we can't have them dressed the same. Like, it's a year later. Do something different to them. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I get it. It's a small little thing. But again, very nice. And again, now I think, is this the end? This is when I started thinking, like, is this the end? Is this the end? Is this the end? So I'm like, is this the end? It's going to end with just the three of them? Not everybody? Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, there goes no, that was just the goodbye for the D. That was the goodbye for the D, which is fine. Made sense. So I'm like, okay, it's not over yet. Okay, Jack's actually become a Starfleet officer. This is a little silly, but it makes sense. And his parents are there, and Crusher is an admiral now, and she's like the head of Starfleet Medical. Again, I think, which is great, because that's what we all want for her, right? To be part of Starfleet again. And Jack is a ensign, and he got promoted quickly. And maybe the name helped. And then we're going to his new ship, but he hasn't told Picard what that ship is yet. And then Picard's like, oh, it's the Titan. That's funny. But then they're like, no, it's been renamed in your honor, in your crew's honor, to the USS Enterprise. And we find out it's the Enterprise G. And I thought there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, because I thought we were going to see the Enterprise G, and I couldn't wait to see what this new design was going to be and how cool it was going to be and whatever it's going to be and is and whatever. Yes. And then, oh no, the Enterprise Titan, or rather the USS Titan, has just been renamed the Enterprise, which makes it the Enterprise G. And I was like, oh, no. Like, oh, wait, what? I was like, no, I want to see a new ship, a big-ass, crazy new ship. But it's still sentiment that's cool. And it is kind of nice. It's sort of like, I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not like mad at it, or I don't like hate it. I just was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, that's fine. And so now Picard's son is going to serve on the Enterprise. But it's the Titan. So there goes that Titan series. Now it would be Enterprise? Again? I don't know. the new generation. Star Trek, the new generation, or Legacy. Jack is on the bridge making kind of a joke. He's very cocky and goofy, but he's the ensign. And we find out that Seven is now the captain, and Raffi is her first officer, which now makes it so my wife will never want to see that show because my wife hates Raffi. I don't mind Raffi now because she's grown as a character. And if they make her more toned down and more Star Trek-ish and Starfleet-ish, I'll be okay with Raffi then. But and Seven says, well, you're not going anywhere else on the ship, science, this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to put you're my counselor, my special counsel, which is, I don't really know what that means. To me, that just meant that, he's an ensign and he could be doing any menial ensign thing somewhere else, probably not even on the bridge. But because they're friends and she's friends with Picard and also she likes Jack, like as a person, she wants to keep him nearby. So that's what I kind of got out of it. It's a little weird, but I get it. And it's sort of nice. And they have a nice ending. And they make a joke about, which is like literally Strange New Worlds came out today. And in Strange New Worlds, the trailer, before this aired, Strange New Worlds had a joke because Spock was sitting at the chair and Ortega goes, are you going to say the thing? Everybody has their thing. What are you going to say? And Spock is like, I would like the ship to go. Well, then they literally did that joke in this show, and it was already kind of... So then that stuck out weird to me because all day I'd been seeing that in the trailer for Strange New Worlds. So then that's all I could think about was like, oh, what the hell is going on? Because I literally said in that trailer that was stupid. And now they're doing it in this. Raffi's like, so what are you gonna do? Engage? Take us out? What's your... It's a big moment. Captain's first command. Whatever, the ship. And then Seven just looks. And I love that they cut away. Because it would have been cringe. If she said anything. Scott Bakula said, let's go. We've heard take us out. We've heard punch it. We've heard let's hit it. I hate that shit, bro. I hate it. Like, most people should just be saying take us out or engage. Or warp 4, whatever. You don't need everybody to have some iconic saying. It's enraging. So if Seven had said something, that would have been really bad. And the fact that they even brought it up was kind of like, ugh. Wish they didn't do that. But the fact that she didn't say anything and they just kind of like left it open and then they warped away, kind of like that. So I guess good call. And I think Strange New Worlds kind of ruined it, to be honest. That trailer earlier ruined it. So then we get a scene in 10 Forward. Now, if they had the budget, and I was in charge, I would have said, well, I don't know. I might have shot for the stars. I might have gone for even more greedy. And I would have said, we could stay in Guinan's bar and have a time, a great old time, but I've got a better place. And then they all walked onto the Enterprise D, and the doors opened on the holodeck, and they walked through the holodeck. Or if Picard had just said, there's a holodeck around the corner, and I've reserved a program for us all tonight. And they walked through the holodeck, and it's 10 Forward. But it's the 10 Forward from the Enterprise D. And they do, and I don't know. That would be like really pouring it on. And if they had time and the budget, which they don't, that's impossible. We were insanely lucky to get the Enterprise D. So this is just fine. We're on 10 forward. And we got the crew. Everybody is here. And I keep thinking it's going to end. I thought it was going to end before. I go, oh my God, is the show really going to end with 7 of 9 and the Enterprise G? Oh my God, no! I still want to see more of the old crew. Oh, thank God, here they are at the bar. Oh my God, I thought they were going to end with the Titan or whatever. So nope, it's the old crew laughing and talking and drinking, and then Picard is like, "We're going to play cards," and then they all play cards, and we basically kind of do a elongated we do Jesus, what, here I go again. We do an elongated outro of All Good Things, which is one of the best endings to a show ever in the history of any show. All Good Things is such a great ending. And we basically do the All Good Things ending. Obviously, nothing's going to be as good as that. And it's a quicker ending. There's a quick pan above. This is one of those less is more and quality over quantity. Like, obviously, The Next Generation, Season 7, All Good Things, that ending is the best ending ever, and it's better than this. But this is the movie version. To me, this is like the movie version of the ending of The Next Generation. And it's fittingly an elongated All Good Things. What's become kind of a what do you call it? Like iconic. It's become an iconic shot of the crew playing poker from above. For Star Trek fans, it's an iconic shot and whatever. And this is a wonderful homage to it, and almost like a re ending. What do you call it? Oh my God, like a retread of it. What do you call it? I can't even think of I can't think of words right now. It's 5 a.m. But yeah, it's like a rebirth of it here, an elongated version of the All Good Things ending, which is fitting because it was a beautiful ending. We didn't really get any line that was like, well, 5-card studs, something, nothing's wild, and sky's the limit. Something like that is the line at the end in Picard, and then it goes up in the air. But this is a beautiful ending, and really is fitting. A fitting ending and a beautiful ending, because it's really it's an homage and a tribute to the beautiful ending that was The Next Generation, done in movie form, kind of, for The Next Generation. So I thought this was wonderful. And then I was told, don't go anywhere because the ending credits have a surprise. And the surprise is Q. And he has a somewhat similar explanation here in my predictions video when I brought Q back and I said, "Oh, you thought I was dead? You mortals think so three-dimensionally. I was merely sick." And that's kind of what happens here. Q comes back in a bonus scene at the end and says to Jack, he's like, "But my father said you were dead." And he's like, "Nope. You mortals." Like, he basically says what I said. And then Jack is like, "But my father told me that you'd forgiven humanity and that the trial was over." And then Q's like, "Yeah, the trial's over for him, but for you, it's just beginning." It's like, it was just a really cool ending. I thought that was a really cool ending. I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I thought it was great. And it's weird to think about, like, after you see the crew, you know, that it's over, that you're going to get a little clip like this. Like, you would think this clip would have come earlier, maybe. And that might be, you know, maybe they should have done this clip earlier, but, or like they could have put this clip in the middle of the bar scene. Like when Picard whips out the card and says, we're going to play cards now. And everybody was like, oh, here we go. And then they cut away to this. And then they cut back to the bar scene where they're all playing cards. And then it ends with the card scene. And that's it. Maybe you could have done that. I don't know how that would have looked in editing. But I really did like this. I don't think I would have changed it. I think this was perfect. I think I don't know. There is a part of me that almost wish that Q was able to like be a part of the whole bridge and say kind of do something with the whole crew. But I like that he was involved. And basically they retconned another thing. They retconned the Borg. They retconned a lot of stuff. But they also retconned Q. Q's not dead. And he never should have been dying or dead anyway. And to me, it was always just another game Q was playing on Picard to help Picard. You know? That being said, my God, do I need to go to sleep. Everybody, this has been my longest review maybe I've ever done for Picard and for this Star Trek. I'm sure you love Star Trek like I do. I love it so much. I hope you guys subscribe to this channel right now and leave as many comments as you can below. And I'll be talking about this again tomorrow going forward. Leave a like if you can, and definitely subscribe. And the birds are out already. And that's about it. I think that's all I can say. I can just say thank you guys for being here with me, and we're going to continue to review all the Star Trek that's out and go over retro reviews of The Next Generation and talk more about other things. Yeah, just leave. I'm interested to see what everybody says about this. All the reviews, everybody's comments. It's going to be crazy. But I do want to say thank you to everybody that worked on this show. And thank you to Terry Metalis, who has been phenomenal to me on Twitter over the past this whole season. And everybody else. And Terry Metalis from putting this all together one way or the other. Akiva Goldsman for getting him involved. Michael Chabon, Alex Kurtzman, all these people who, some of them, I did not like their decision making on a lot of things. But what I will say is their decision to give season 3 to Terry Metalis is the best decision that anyone's ever made in Star Trek since 2004 or 5. So I am very thankful that, for whatever reason, Kurtzman, Chabon, Akiva,